Well, hello and welcome to Outdoor Oklahoma. I'm Todd Craighead. For several years, trout fishing in Oklahoma City has been more than just a fish story, but a reality. It's made possible through a partnership ODWC has with the 89er chapter of Trout Unlimited and Oklahoma City Parks and Rec. Today's stocking is at Route 66 Park Pond, just west of Lake Overholser. Now, Edwards Park, east of downtown, also is part of the partnership. Both places are stocked from December through February, which you can find all the regulations online. Trout fishing in the middle of the state's largest urban area. Imagine that. A wildlife department that values and embraces partnerships that provide you and I with unique, quality outdoor opportunities. Just another reason to love Oklahoma and the adventures that await you.
A couple years ago, I was given a knife for Christmas from my brother-in-law, and it was a handmade knife. I looked at that knife and looked at it and thought, I can do this. I can make these knives. It was made out of a file, and one night I just came out to my shop and I made one. I've been doing it probably close to 2.5 years. And I've probably made and sold 200 knives, maybe a little over, maybe a little under. I've used all kinds of different handle material, different kind of steels, and different size knives. And I don't use any patterns. I just get a piece of steel and draw the pattern on there. And how it turns out is how I planned it to turn out. If you want to make your own blade, you're going to have grinders and sanders and polishers and a drill press. So it takes a lot more tools to make a knife from scratch than it does to buy a blade. If you have a handmade knife, whether you buy it or you make it, it's something different. If you wanted 10 knives, those 10 knives are not going to be identical because it is all done by hand. There's no CNC machine that cuts them, so they are going to be a little different. And that does set it apart, where, you know, a lot of people that buy a handmade knife, they want to look at it and they want to be able to tell that it's a handmade knife. You know, there's people that make knives out of files, which I made a lot of knives out of files. There's a world of used files laying around about every junkyard. People have used truck springs, people have used lawnmower blades. And you can actually virtually buy any kind of steel you want. The main thing is to get a good high carbon steel that's going to retain an edge and it's going to be tough. And it's, you know, if a guy takes care of his knife, it's going to last him a lifetime. And handle material, you can literally buy anything you want. You can buy all types of bone, you know, giraffe bone, camel bone, cow bone. You can buy ivory. You can actually buy mammoth ivory. That's, you know, there's a lot of fossil type material out there that's, you know, a lot of people say 20 to 50,000 years old. Now you can even buy that, and most of that is regulated by how much you want to spend. So you can, you know, and there's lots of decorative steels that you can use for, you know, you got nickel silver, you got sterling silver and copper and brass that you can incorporate into your knives also and into the handle. So you can pretty much buy or obtain what you want. I would definitely suggest, hey, why don't you buy a blade and You know, if you don't want to buy the handles, buy the material and make your own handle and see if you do like it and see if it's something that you would be interested in. You know, there's a lot of blades available, places you can buy a knife blade, you can buy the parts. There's blades out there that you can buy that are pre-finished, they come sharp, at as little as $10 or $11. Are they the best knife steel and the best knife you can buy? No, they're not. But, you know, are you gonna jump in and build a $400 or $500 knife for your first one? Probably not.
I was born and raised on a farm and kind of around welding and so forth, and I got interested several years ago in making knives, and I didn't really start making them until about 5 or 6 years ago. I tried it a time or two and just, you know, once in a while, but I never did get serious about making them until about 5 or 6 years ago. I taught myself more or less. Kind of a trial and error thing. I'd temper up a blade and then get on the anvil with it and hammer it, and if it'd break, well then I knew I was wrong, and I just kept working with it until I got it where it wouldn't break, and I'd get it hard enough that it wouldn't break, and then if you get it too hard, it'll break. So whenever I build one, I don't want it to break. Whenever a guy buys one, I don't want it to break on him. So I generally test them on the anvil with a hammer to see if they'll break. Most knives you find today are made out of stainless steel, which is good, you know, but I kind of old-fashioned. The knives, the early knives, were made out of carbon steel, and so I started making knives out of carbon steel. I make stainless once in a while, but I just got interested in using the old carbon steel that comes in saw blades, like come out of sawmills, and then out of files and hoof rasp and so forth. The knives, some of the knives I've been making, with out of a hoof rasp, you have to take the rasp itself and take the temper out of it, because when you pick it up like it is, it's so hard you can't work with it. So you got to draw the temper out of it. You heat it and put it in lime and draw the temper, and then you work on the knife. You build the knife, cut it down, and it's called stock removal, and you get it built and get it down close to being finished. Well, then you put the temper back in it, which you got to heat it up and quench it in oil and get the temper, and then draw it. You get it a little too hard when you first quench it, but then you got to draw it back where it won't break, and that's kind of the process I go through. I generally draw my own patterns, and I just get an idea of the pattern, and I'll draw one until I get it right, and then maybe I'll make up the knife out of wood, and if it feels right, then I'll go ahead and make the knife, and generally they get along pretty good with them. Have pretty good luck with them. It's a lot of grinding and polishing and shaping, but I generally always design my own knife, you know, or somebody gives me an idea how they want a knife. Well, I generally figure out a way to build one that'll suit him. I don't try to copy anybody. I don't, but I guess my knives are a little different than most knives because most of them made out of carbon steel and a little bit old-fashioned way of making a knife. And most of your new knife makers make them out of stainless steel of some kind, which I don't have any objection to it. I just kind of hard-headed, I guess. I make them my own way, you know. Knife I make it to be used. A lot of times the guy won't use it, he'll put it up or display it or something, but I make it to be used. I make the knife to be used in case you ever need it, well, you got one that you can use, and I guarantee that if something goes wrong with it, I'll do my best to fix it. I make a lot of different styles. I kind of tend to stick to one or two or three styles, but if I get an idea or somebody's got an idea how they want a knife made, well, if it isn't too radical, well, I'll try to make it for them. But if it's too radical, well, I don't generally try to get out too far. I try to make a functional knife that he can use and get some good out of. The people that buy my knives, I make a knife or two and see a friend or two, and first thing you know, I sell a knife, and he takes it and shows it to different friends, and pretty soon I get a call from one of them wanting a knife, and it's just kind of spread from there. The knife sells itself. I don't sell it, it sells itself. I've got a teepee, and sometimes I camp in it and go hunting and deer hunting and so forth and camp in this teepee. And I've got a big buffalo robe that I use to sleep on. And a friend of mine that camps with me, he calls me man who sleeps on buffalo robe and teepee. And every time he sees me, he just calls me man who for short. And so I started using it on my knives as a kind of a trade on my knives. Couldn't put all that on there, that man who sleeps in teepee on a buffalo robe. Pretty hard to get on there, so. But it's kind of an Indian name that I acquired over the years. I don't know what'll happen on the man who knives. I just try to make a good knife and hope whoever buys one or acquires one some way will that it'll do him a good job, and I hope it's made well enough that he can pass it on to his son or his grandson.
So, well, I got back into fishing. I was in a work environment where there was no windows in my office, and I was I was really yearning to be back outside, or at least see what's going on. I didn't even know what the weather was doing outside. And at times I'd come in and it was bright and sunny outside, and then I'd come out and it's dark and cold. So ultimately it started just to get back outside and be more in nature. And a lot of these close to home ponds allowed me to do that without actually having to leave work for too long. So I could go over my lunch break and get out, go fish, pack up, and get back. And that just allowed me to kind of scratch that itch to get out and actually see what was going on around me and be more than just sitting there in front of a screen all day. And that's ultimately what started it. And from there, I was looking for something a little more simple. And just by virtue of watching people on YouTube, and these ads started popping up about this new style of fishing that I had never heard of, but it's been around forever. And it was called Tenkara, and it was the minimal kind of fishing that I was looking for. And then I can go out and I can spend 30 minutes to an hour, and I typically will catch fish, but if I don't, I'm still out and enjoying nature. That's what it's all about, really. All right, so right now I have a little olive woolly bugger on here, and the water's a little cloudy and a little stained. So what I'm going to switch over to is something a little brighter, and hopefully be able to catch their attention a little bit more. Let's see what we've got here. If I was going for more of a traditional fly fish like a trout or something like that, then I could go to a little bit smaller bait. They seem to be more keen on smaller insects, but with more predatory fish like bass and sunfish in general, you need something a little bit bigger, something that more resembles bait fish, or at least that's what I've found that they tend to like more. When you trim your tags, put them away, don't leave them on the ground. It ruins everybody else's day, picking up other people's trash. All right, we're tied it back on and ready to go. All right, so now this is a little bit different than the one we had. Honestly, I don't even know what it's called. I just tied it because it looked like it might catch a fish. And this the tail is made out of marabou, and once it gets wet, it looks very, very similar to a bait fish tail. And so hopefully it'll get us some luck. It is fly fishing. And so you can use traditional flies on it, but outside of that, it's so simple to set up. There have been multiple times when I have this already ready to go in my truck. I'll take it out of its protective tube just so it doesn't get scuffed up and banged. But then I'll already be on the water, and people are still putting their waders on or putting their fly rods together and stringing their line through. It's all here. Everything is there that I need. So as I'm walking down to the bank, I can be undoing it and getting it ready. And typically within a minute, 2 minutes, I'm already fishing. So it allowed me to spend more time on the water during my lunch breaks and that short amount of time that I had. And that's ultimately what I was looking for, something minimal that I could get out, enjoy myself, pack up, and be quick to get back. Oh, fish. It's a big green sunfish. And so at this point, I don't have anything to reel in, so I just have to keep tension on the fish, and then slowly bring the rod behind me so I can get him closer. There we go. Big green sunfish. It's probably some sort of a hybrid, but it almost looks like maybe it's a pumpkin seed or something like that, with all the speckledy, and it has a little bit of red on the opercular flap. Yeah, he took the fly that we just tied on. Need to get my forceps to get that out of there. They have smaller mouth than the green sunfish. And that's it. Griffin has been, it actually was the first pond that I came to whenever I started getting back into it. I knew that there were fish in here, and I knew that I could come out at these places that had been stocked, and I could come out and catch fish. And it didn't have to be an entire day worth of effort. I mean, it just was a small amount of time that I came out. It was some me time to just kind of unwind. And I honestly felt more energetic once I got back to my office, and I felt like I was more productive. And so that, that fueled the fire. All right, so we're slowly scaling up. The next one's the big one, right? So, let's see. So there's a bass literally just right there in that clump of green. You can see him. I don't know if I can get him to go, but we'll try. Oh, that's a bigger one. Jeez, that's a sunfish. All right, left my net. You can see how quick that can be. I was just out of nowhere, but he really took off. So you got to be willing to kind of chase with him. Let's maybe do that again. Get them all cleaned off real quick. A little better fish handling skills this time. Ow. Pretty fish. And they'll fight like crazy on this rod. I am by no means an expert. I've done a little bit of research, and so where it came from was Japan. The idea behind it was that, and the traditional method was to use bamboo rods that could be broken down and kind of slip fit together, similar to like a spinning rod or a fly rod, how they just kind of join together. And then from there, now, we have carbon rods that are telescoping. So this rod, which is I think 21 inches long at this point, telescopes out the end to be about 12 to 13 feet long. And it weighs, next to nothing. It's super easy, packable. So if you're hiking, these are amazing for hiking because you can just throw it in your bag. Like I said, throw your pack of flies, some tippet, and your little pliers, and you're set for your entire hike. It's super simple, and that was the biggest thing. That was the biggest draw for me, is the simplicity of it all. The whole point is to get out and catch fish, not to grind all day long to try and catch one, 2-pound bass. Get out there, start catching fish, and have a good day.
Well, we hope today's stories remind you that Oklahoma is a perfect place to explore. So however you choose to enjoy our incredible natural world, remember, your adventure starts with Outdoor Oklahoma. Okay, I think you slimed me earlier with a little bit of fish, so. Outdoor Oklahoma is produced by the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation and is proud to serve and be funded entirely by sportsmen and women and outdoor enthusiasts who love and appreciate all things wild in the great state of Oklahoma.